Chris Sewall here, baseball card collector, investor, dealer in that order. Welcome everyone. I don't know if it's just me, but I am ready for some regular rollers. Let's get to it. We'll start with the one sent in by Grant, who wrote, I came across an estate sale online and found this 1999 Topps Chrome Vladimir Guerrero early road to the Hall refractor out of 100. With a few days to go in the auction it was at $4 until the final hours. It stayed at $4. The final price ended up being $31 plus fees, which made the card $38. Then I was charged $10 packing and $9 for shipping. All in, I'm in the card for $57. This card has been graded by PSA 7 times only, with recent sales of 9s going for around $200. A very, very recent auction ended at a lower price of $122 on eBay. I have bought just a few items from estate sales. I find that people will pay over eBay comps at many online estate auctions, and the auction fees are always substantial. I've always been disappointed with buying vintage, as photos do not do a great job showing true collection of a card, which then leads me to overpaying. Regardless, I think this is a great pickup, which I may get graded as the condition is great. This is a card I will not hold, as I can use the funds to buy cards that I want for my PC. Nothing but upside on this pickup, and shows that with enough searching you can find the occasional deal. This was sent by William, who wrote, I've been eyeing a vintage auto Graham card for a while, and the 1954 Bowman was the primary one I wanted to get. I wanted to make sure I got a graded copy just to avoid buying a reprint of some kind, but a lot of the decent looking graded copies were more expensive than I wanted to pay. Ended up finding this one that was graded by SGC as authentic, minimum size not met, but all I care about was that it was an authentic copy of the card, so I bid on it, ended up winning it for $16. I couldn't believe it, as low-grade raw copies sell for double that. Not sure if people just don't like the authentic grade or what happened, but I was really happy with the purchase price. I was considering cracking it and trying to resubmit it as a miscut to see if I could get a number grade on it, but would like your advice on if you think this would be worth doing, as the card looks to be mid-grade other than the size not met issue. Yeah, I think you got a really nice price here, and it sounds to me like this is a PC card for you, and I personally think it looks great in the SGC holder as is. You know, you could try sending it to PSA or cracking it or whatever and hoping for a number grade or a qualifier, and do it that way. But I probably wouldn't recommend that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that if you wanted to try it. That's certainly a reasonable thing to try, but I think it looks great as is. And, you might not get the grade you want if you do that, and you might have to send it back in again. To me, not worth the hassle. And again, I think it looks nice as. And let me give a little props to SGC here. Putting the reason for the authentic on the card there, minimum size not met. That's a really nice feature they've added recently, and I hope other companies, PSA in particular, follow suit. This was sent in by a DMV representative who wrote, on Saturday I went to a card show for the first time as a dealer and to walk around and to see the environment of one. I got this 2009 SPX football Calvin Johnson patch card at a 99. The seller was asking for $10, and I tried to get it for $8 because of the ding corners, but he threw the whole I got to pay for my table fees story. Nevertheless, I was happy with the purchase because it met all of my criteria. It's an upper deck card, authentic patch of cloth, and in good condition. Yeah, nice pickup, and hopefully that is the first of many card shows for you. This was sent by Ronald, who wrote, I saw this listed on eBay, thought I'd follow it. The seller offered a redemption card for a Bryce Harper autograph, but in the listing he noted it was used, and in the description he emphatically warned that it has been used. Still, someone paid $70 for that redemption card. I don't understand this at all. Do you? Seller clearly did not misrepresent. Was the buyer just not paying attention? Or maybe they were a super collector? There were 11 bids on this. Curious to know your thoughts. So yeah, I tend to side with the buyer on these sort of things. Like, to me, it's the responsibility of the seller to be extremely clear, leave no room for misinterpretation at all. But for the most part, I think the seller's basically done that here. I mean, they put used in all caps in the title. There's a photo that clearly shows that the redemption has been used. And it says 3 times in the description that this is used, and very, very clearly emphasizing that. So I put this one on the buyer. I mean, if you wanted to nitpick the seller here, you could say the title, I guess, could be a little more clear. Like, they could say redeemed maybe instead of used. Used might be a little confusing at times, but really, I put this one on the buyer. And I doubt that there's a super fan out there looking to pay $70 for this sort of thing. It's possible, but more likely there were just a couple of buyers who were not paying close attention, and somebody's paying $70 here for an item with essentially, little to no value. This was sent by Bradley, who wrote, last November I stumbled upon a publication that I thought was incredible. It was a 1984 NBA draft guide featuring Hakeem Olajuwon and Michael Jordan in their college jerseys. This was published by NBA Today and featured scouting report information on all the prospects heading into the 1984 draft. I saw this as a collectible magazine that I thought would look amazing if it were slabbed by CGC, so I bought it for $350. After it was delivered and I held it in my hands, the awesomeness was confirmed, and I went searching to see if I could find any more copies. I did find one additional, which I purchased later that month for $359. I sent both magazines to CGC for grading at the walkthrough tier, which is $150 per magazine, putting me at roughly $1,000 all in for the two magazines. One came back a CGC 7.5 and the other came back an 8.5. Including these two copies, only 4 copies have ever been graded. The other two were a 5 and a 6, meaning that my 2 copies are the 2 highest graded in the world. I wanted to keep the 8.5 for my C, but I decided to put the 7.5 up for auction and Heritage. On May 12th, the 7.5 sold for $1,380. This means that the sale of the 7.5 more than covered the expenses on the purchase of the grading of both items, plus I got to keep my 8.5, which is currently the single best copy in the world of this 1984 NBA draft guide featuring MJ on the cover, and which you would have to figure is worth at least more than $1,380. However, since I think this is such a cool collectible, I plan on keeping the 8.5 for many, many years to come. This was sent by Mark, who wrote, as I watched my beloved Dodgers play the other day while also keeping track of a Max Muncy autographed Topps Now postseason encased card numbered to 99 on eBay. With the time window winding down, Max had just hit a home run to take the Major League lead in homers. I knew I had to have this card, so I bid high and was surprised to see my max bid wasn't really needed, as I got the card for about $14 all in. I truly believe his slump in April devalued his cards, and now that he has the lead in homers again, his cards will rise back up to normal prices. Nice card for the price here. And yeah, I've mentioned it, or maybe I haven't, but Topps Now has kind of grown on me. When it first came out, I thought it was kind of gimmicky, and it still sort of is, but it has a lot of cool stuff like highlighting actual moments of baseball, and and nothing more to say than that other than it's sort of growing on me. This was sent by Thomas, and these are really fun for me, as this is how I used to buy a lot on eBay, was buy sort of vintage lots like this and break them up for small profits here and there. But he wrote, I saw this lot with 8 minutes left. I don't know a lot about hockey, but the first Tim Horton on the lower left in the picture is a 1969 Topps that the first 2 eBay comps I looked at were $159 through Greg Morris and $50 as a best offer. Obviously, condition is always huge, but I thought this lot was in great looking shape. What am I missing? So I actually also don't know a whole lot about hockey, but I like what you did with looking up comps. Although I would say the 2 comps you used really are not good data points at all. The first one is a Greg Morris auction, and they listed the card as near mint, and Greg Morris is extremely strict graders, and that's why people will pay a heavy premium for their near mint listing cards, because they know that they're such strict graders. So it's very, 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 very unlikely that the Tim Horton card in this listing you were looking at is going to be of this high quality. The second one's a buy it now. Buy it nows really just aren't as good data points as auctions, because there's a lot of unknowns to this. I mean, this could be manipulated. This could also just be this could have just been sitting in somebody's store for a year, and finally somebody got lucky and sold it. And okay, they sold it for $50, but maybe it took a year to get there. So that's something that's to be considered. You don't know with buy it nows often. The best data points are just auctions from sort of standard eBay accounts. That's what I would say you can determine, like, fair market value in terms of what you should be able to expect to sell it for in a reasonably quick amount of time. So I don't think either of these points are very good. If you look at better sort of data points for the Tim Horton, I'd say it's more like a $10 to $15 card in solid mid-grade or X-Mint, which is what it appears to be in the pictures. Although, like you said, you never know with lots like this. It's really condition sensitive, and whether you do well or not on this lot will all depend on how nice condition the cards end up being when you receive them. They do look nice in the pictures, so I think there is a chance you'll do well. This one's sent by Richard, who just wrote, no story today, Chris, just the remembrance of one of the greatest to ever play the game, and a picture of my 1964 Philadelphia Jim Brown, which has been in my collection for more than 50 years. All the Cleveland players in this set were photographed in the parking lot, which I always thought was hilarious. R.I.P. Jim Brown. And another Jim Brown card. This was sent to by my man Living with LT, who wrote, this card I just purchased now has significant value to me. I just learned about the recent death of Jim Brown. I'm too young to have watched him play, but know the legend that he is. The significance of getting this card was learning we are both alumni from Syracuse University. I also learned that his number 44 was retired of the all-around athlete he was at the time, so this definitely comes down as a cool PC item for me. And we'll switch over to just a quick funny one. This was sent by Greg, who wrote, funny scanner mistake highlighting the perils of automated selling. Yeah, that's funny. I actually had this happen to me before on some of my listings when I was listing, when I had tens of thousands of listings, and every once in a while the scanner would just I don't know, freeze or whatever it's doing there and give the card a long extended stretch here, as has happened to Keith Magnuson's head on this 1972 OPC card. And I usually finish on a vintage bargain. These aren't vintage, but they're from 2002, so they're over 20 years old. they'll be considered vintage at some point, I guess. These are sent in by Gary, who wrote, "These auctions were running simultaneously by the same seller. I won both of them. They're 2 game-used jerseys from Drew Brees' first official NFL game. These cards don't get the fanfare for some reason, but I thought it was a great deal. I sent them to SGC. One got a mint 9 and the other got a 9.5. A little nugget about these cards is these are game-used jerseys from his first ever NFL game. Every single swatch is white because they wore white jerseys in the hot home opener against Washington. Brees was Doug Flutie's backup in the game." Yeah, that is really cool. I didn't know about this card either, but this is a great example of how, I did a video at one point about how patch cards and jersey cards have sort of de-evolved over the years. They used to be a whole lot cooler with a lot more meaning. Today, they're just like a piece of a random cloth. But yeah, look at the back write-up of this card. On the front of this card is an authentic piece of a jersey worn by Drew Brees in his first official NFL game. I mean, that is awesome. Look at that. His NFL debut, a piece of the jersey from that game. That's really, really cool. And price here was amazing. $8.50 a piece. I think that was a steal. But that's it. Thank you everyone for watching this week's regular Rollers. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you all again next time. Thanks everyone.